you're thinking about moving to the cloud, what are some reasons that you might want to be thinking about it? So one of the things that is more of a, unfortunately, a defensive move is there's been a lot of ransomware attacks over the past few years. The amount of ransomware attacks have doubled and tripled over the past few years, and we're seeing a lot of our customers who are on premise get hit by ransomware, especially if you're on Exchange on premise. If you're on Exchange on premise, please get off and move that to the cloud as quickly as you can, because that is very susceptible to ransomware. And there have been some very high profile ransomware attacks as well too. So just about in any industry that you're in, ransomware is happening today. So what ransomware is when someone will initiate an attack and they will basically freeze you out of your systems so that you're unable to access any of your data. And the only way to get access back to your data is to pay a ransom to, whatever company did this to you. And at that point, you'll be able to get back into your system if they honor, the payment that you've made. So this has really crippled a lot of businesses and is a serious thing that you should be thinking about from a risk management for your organization today. And there's lots of different ways to protect yourself from ransomware. I did a session recently that talked about 7 things that you can do to help get you in a better position to protect yourself from ransomware. So if you are on premise and you're staying on premise for the long haul, please take a minute to watch that and review that and make sure that you've done all the steps to protect yourself as best you can. Again, there are a lot of hackers out there. Security is much more challenging than it's ever been in the past with all these people looking to attack. And it used to be that you were safer being on premise, but honestly, what's happened now is that Microsoft and Google and AWS have invested so much into protecting their cloud infrastructure that you're actually safer being in the cloud than you are on premise today, with the expertise that Microsoft and the other players in that space have. So again, if you're staying on premise long term, please take a minute to review. You'll get insurance, cybersecurity insurance. Make sure you've taken all those security measures to protect yourself as best you can. Make sure you have backups and you're able to restore those backups. Otherwise, you're in very real danger from being taken down for a longer period of time. So with that, I'll rant over on that side of it, but it is a serious thing I want everyone to consider. If you are at a stage where your server has been in the life cycle for the past 5-7 years and you're looking at having to replace the server, that's a good time to consider a move to the cloud as well too. And we'll talk about a few different ways that you can make that move. And then another thing to think about if you're thinking about moving to the cloud is access to Microsoft's new features and its focus as well. So as I mentioned, Microsoft is making their major investments in that cloud. Dynamics 365 Power Platform, the slides I just put up there. So if you want to take advantage of that functionality and that capability, that's another reason to consider moving to the cloud, because that's where Microsoft is going to be investing heavily in the future. So if you're thinking about making a move to the cloud, what does that look like, or what are the various different approaches? So we'll talk about 3 different approaches you can take in a little bit more detail. So one would be migrating to Business Central or the finance and supply chain ERP system. So that's one way you can move, where you migrate from Dynamics GP to a new ERP system that's hosted in the cloud. Another thing you can do is, if you're happy with GP and you want to stay on GP for the long haul, is you can move your GP instance from being hosted on premise to be hosted in Microsoft's Azure platform. That way you get all the security benefits that come with Microsoft Azure. Don't have to worry about the ransomware to the same level that you had in the past, and you don't have to worry about servers or maintaining uptime within your own particular environment. Also don't have to worry about disaster recovery and things like that as well too, if you make the right move to the cloud. And another way you can approach it as well too is you can either stay on premise, use your GP instance in the cloud, but you can start incorporating some of these Power Platform elements into your business. So you might say, like, I want to invest in Power BI reports on my GP server and build out everything that I need to be able to run my business there. Then when I look to move my ERP to the cloud in the future, I know the kind of information I need to run my business. It's already built in Power BI or Power Apps, and it makes that transition much easier in the future. So those are some things that I'll drill into a little bit, but there are different approaches that you can take to that cloud transition if you're thinking about it today.